Hi guys, I am recording a video to go along with my PowerPoint presentation. I tried to do a narrated PowerPoint where you could listen and watch the PowerPoint presentation at the same time, but I couldn't do that with a Chromebook. So I'm making a video and I'm going to be looking at the PowerPoint as I talk. So I will tell you when to go to the next slide. So hopefully this works and it's not too complicated. But I will be looking at it and maybe you could look at it and listen to this at the same time. So if you go to my PowerPoint and you look on slide 1, it says stress and mental health. And this is the unit that we are working on right now. Okay, and then if you go to the second slide, it says essential questions. And the essential questions are: what causes stress and mental health issues? How does it feel to have a mental illness? How can you help a friend who has a mental illness? How can you be more aware of your own mental health? And are mental health issues on the rise? And if so, why is that? So these essential questions are basically the questions that we want to be thinking about in the back of our mind as we go through this unit. So they're kind of the overarching questions that I've created this unit with. So these are the important things we want to focus on. Okay, the next slide. I put a lot of wildlife photos in just because they're really cute. So this is talking about what you will understand by the end of this unit. So you will understand what the common mental health problems are, what most of them are, and based on your pre-assessment, most of you know that already, so that's really great. You will understand the symptoms of common mental health problems and some of the treatments for common mental health problems. Okay, go to the next slide, and it talks about grading. And we will have a quiz on May 14th, so that's a week from today. And that will be based on the lectures that I'm giving and on the textbook that you have on the chapter on stress and mental health. That will be a pretty typical quiz, like the ones we would write in class, although a little bit trickier because you will have your books with you, so you'll be able to look through your book to find some answers. So it will be a little bit more in depth, but you'll have your book with you, so about the same. Then we'll do some case studies, so just some basic little descriptions of a person and some of their symptoms, and then you will be able to kind of make a educated guess on what problem that student might be going through. And we will also do a chart that's titled Looks Like, Feels Like. And I'll talk about that more when we get to it. Okay, and so some of the common problems, as you know, are stress, anxiety, phobias, OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder, PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and eating disorders. And these would be considered the less serious problems. They're not psychological disorders or diseases. They would be considered mental health problems. Okay. And so let's just look at stress today briefly. So although stress is something that we talk about quite often, or that we would feel quite often, it hasn't really been around all that long. Well, stress has always been there, but it hasn't been around all that long as a term. So I think in the 1920s or 30s was when it was first mentioned as a term, and then it wasn't until the 1970s that it became quite a commonly used term. So even though it is commonly used now, it's not always clear exactly what it is. So it's been defined in a few different ways, and some people would define it as a stimulus. So they would refer to the event that's causing stress as the stress. So you have an exam, or you have to make a speech. That would be stress. You can also look at stress as a response. So when you feel sick in your stomach because of something, or you start getting sweaty, or you start panicking because of something you have to do, that would be stress. So the response could be stress. Or you could also look at stress as a process. So the way that we navigate difficult situations or changing situations in our world, and how we interact with those and work through those, that can be stressed. So it's very interrelated and similar, but they are just some different ways of looking at stress. Okay, so let's talk about some symptoms. So that's on the next slide there, symptoms of stress. So exhaustion, generally because when you are facing something stressful, your body reacts chemically, and this goes into more detail in the textbook, to help you fight against that and help you face the stressful situation that you have. And that's something that God has given us. He's given us in our bodies the ability to rise up to challenges. But if we become overly stressed about something, maybe because of, well, lots of reasons, but trauma in the past or unhelpful coping mechanisms, then we can become exhausted. And this can lead to illness. We can feel dizzy at the time, and we could have a stomach ache or sore muscles. So these are some symptoms of stress. Okay, and then so there are some different types of coping mechanisms. That's the slide with the eagles. So there's the approach versus avoidance. So you could, if you have stress, you could try to combat the stress. You could try to think of ways of maybe making a list of how you could solve the problem of something that's coming up, or you kind of come at it head on to think of ways to deal with it. Or there's avoidance, which would be more of a technique of trying not to think about it, trying to think about positive things instead of this negative thing. Even thinking of just keeping positive would be more of an avoidance approach, because you're not really facing the problem. You're trying to kind of pretend it doesn't really matter too much and that it's not really there. So approaching the problem head on is a healthier way to handle it, but avoiding the problem with some techniques is better than crumpling under the stress as well. Okay, so final slide, like a toucan or something. I thought that was really beautiful. So this is to be continued. So that's my talk on stress, and to be continued, I will address some of the other mental health issues. So thanks for watching. Let me know if this format works, and if not, I can try something different next time. Thanks.